Another week in the books, and hopefully a few more winners for us in the upcoming weekend and all things college football. And yes, it is another edition of Beef Up Front. Beef up front. Can't win without beef up front. Come on, that's simple. As always, it is Ryan Coyle, and I am Sean Brace. Ryan is beef. Hello, Ryan. How we doing?
Good vibes right now. Philly could not be higher. Both of us had the Phillies game last night. That was a great time, and
Ooh.
it's just electric time in the city right now. Eagles try to dampen it a little bit, but I think kind of everyone for the first time in forever is probably more so in on the Phillies right now than the Eagles. So great times, and we got some more good college football games coming up this weekend. We've been spoiled with all the great games. The big one of the week, Penn State, Ohio State, big game for people of Pennsylvania as well. So very, very exciting time and ready to dive all into it once again.
Yeah, Philadelphia sports are just rolling right now, and of course with Temple and SMU, it's really exciting stuff.
Yeah, Friday night at the link, probably 75 people there, I'd say, non-family members. That's probably it with the Phillies playing at the same time. That would be I wish the Phillies were home on Friday night just to see what the crowd actually looked like, people actually going into the stadium or something.
Yeah, it would be funny to see that, but like last night with all the Mexican jerseys all over the place, that was
That was a
crazy.
mob scene.
Yeah, there wasn't one German uniform in
Mm-mm,
the parking lot. I didn't see one.
mm-mm.
Nothing but Mexican fans all over the place, and they travel deep, of course. But that
They were
was an
getting
interesting.
after it too.
Oh yeah, they were. That was an interesting evening down at the South Philly Sports Complex. All right, Ryan, let's get into it, man. College football halfway point, right? Somewhere
Yeah,
around there.
yeah, it all shakes up with buys and whatnot, but you're about halfway, and this is
Yeah.
where we really start to get into the thick of conference play. So where the men separate from the boys, pretty much.
Amen to that. Quick recap from last week. You owe me, man. I put my mortgage on the Minutemen.
That
Joking.
was
I had a little flyer on it just to have fun. I'm like, I'll take 41. And the game kicked off, and I'm watching it for like literally 5 minutes. I'm like, yeah, they're not going to score a point, and I knew it.
yeah,
60.
not the greatest call. I thought maybe a little look ahead spot. They got some guys benched, but I didn't even watch that game. That was just one of the ones I was looking at my phone. It's like this is not looking good.
No, yeah, that was an ugly game. What was not an ugly game was Washington and Oregon. And I was on the wrong side. And I mean, that was college football at its finest right there. And that scene, Pacific Northwest, those two schools going at it. And Michael Penix Jr., he is the front runner for the Heisman for a reason, man. My
Mhm.
goodness, what a performance by Washington. And of course, him leading the charge. He is now minus 130 on DraftKings Sportsbook to win the Heisman. We were just talking about it. What was he heading into last week? He was plus 200, correct?
Yeah, I think it was like plus 240 because I
Wow.
I thought Oregon was going to win the game, and I took Bo Nix earlier in the week at plus 600. Now Bo Nix is all the way down to like 20-1, and Penix is the overwhelming favorite. I believe it's J.J. McCarthy, Dylan Gabriel there at plus 1,000, are the next closest guys. So barring an implosion, it looks like it's Michael Penix's award to lose.
Yeah, I agree with that. So we'll talk more about Washington and a little bit more about the Pac-12 in just a second. Other highlights from last week, or maybe not so much a highlight, but USC getting shellacked by Notre Dame. Can't say I was all that surprised. It was disappointing from a football fan's perspective, not having action on it, but can't say I was surprised with everything that we were discussing on last week's pod.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that was surprising was Caleb Williams' performance. I mean, he's been a guy where notorious for his playmaking ability, but he's also done a great job of just taking care of the football. And he goes out and has 3 interceptions last week. Um, but you could see even in like the post game presser, he's a little bit fed up because if he's not playing his A+ ball, USC is in trouble, and they have a murderer's row schedule continuing to come up. Like I was talking to someone earlier, I think that this USC team could potentially wind up losing like 4 games. I think
Ooh.
down the stretch, it could be even one of those things where Caleb Williams might opt to sit out the last couple games if they're out of the picture just to stay healthy going forward. That was a rude awakening last week, and I think also Lincoln Riley's got to look in the mirror now and be like, all right, we're going to the Big Ten. Notre Dame is, pretty much built like a Big Ten ACC type school, and they were able to push us around, dominate us like that. There might need to be some style changes if they really want to get things rolling in the Big Ten, starting in next year. It's pretty wild to say.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting thought process on that one. Definitely did not connect the dots on that one, but nice work there. Yeah, that's not going to pay off in the long run if you're going to get pushed around like that. So, look, one thing that we discussed, I think 2 weeks ago, we were talking about USC, and Lincoln Riley's never won a playoff game, and it seems like he lacks on the defensive side of the ball year in, year out. And it's just got to, like you said, look in the mirror, because it's inexcusable. And another thing you said on last week's pod, it's like, dude, you possibly could have back-to-back Heisman Trophy quarterback, and what do you have to show for it? Nothing.
Nothing.
You know.
Yeah, I
So,
mean,
but
it's the same thing with Alex Grinch too, who's defensive coordinator at Oklahoma. Brings him with him to USC. And last week, the offense didn't do the defense for USC any favors, but still, each and every week, this team is just getting Swiss cheese, just holes everywhere, every single spot. And they've shown no signs of improvement. They went out and added a bunch of dudes in the transfer portal. It becomes a point where it's like, all right, your coaching or your scheme on the defensive side of the ball is just not good enough. They're going to get players, they're going to get recruits. But at the same time, if you're a defender, why do you want to go there based off of what it's looked like? Maybe their pitch is you could change this, you could go with this great offense and help us build a great defense. But you see how fast they play on offense. You're going to be playing a lot of snaps. Like if I'm a big time defender, I'm going to one of these Big Ten schools, a Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan, where I know that they're going to invest in me on defense and not really be killing me for going out there playing 100 snaps a game.
yeah, well, again, it's USC, and we expect them to compete for national championships. I know that it's been a little while, but bottom line, that's how I view that program. And Lincoln Riley was a hell of a get. I think we're all fans of him, but he definitely has his flaws.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you stated it correctly by saying, look in the mirror, man. It's time. It's time. You're talked about one of the greats. All right, you're a good offensive mind. So was Chip Kelly. At least Chip
Yeah.
Kelly made it to a national championship.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah, I mean, 2 losses every single year, no playoff win. They consistently play poorly down the stretch. And like I said, the schedule coming up, they still have to play Washington. They still have to play Oregon. They have Utah this week. I
Utah.
mean,
Yep.
not any easier down the stretch. Like they got away from the easy part of their schedule and with some really close victories. And now it just is going to get even harder. So it could be one of those things where USC has to do some soul searching next offseason.
All right, Ryan Coyle, you ready to go? Fire it up, and let's get after some games this week.
Yes, sir. Let's ride.
All right, you know where we're going. First game on the card, and it's the big one, and it's a noon kickoff, and everybody's talking about it. Really intrigued to hear your thoughts on this game, and of course, it's Ohio State and Penn State. And man, I'll tell you what, if people weren't really paying attention too closely in detail, and I knew that Penn State had a really good defense, but man, you want to talk about one of the best in the country. Right now, they have that defense ranks first in the nation in pass defense, only put up 121.2 yards per game, and total yards 193.7, and second in points and rushing yards allowed, only 72.5. Penn State have held opponents under 100 rushing yards in 5 straight games. Life is not going to be easy for Ohio State this upcoming Saturday, just a couple days away here. Ohio State's a 4.5-point home favorite. 45.5 is your total on this one. Noon kick. Ryan Coyle, what are you looking at in this game?
Yeah, so I mean, tying it to what we were saying about USC as well, the whole opinion, the whole story regarding Ohio State was they're soft. We saw what Michigan was able to do to them the past few years and push them around. What Georgia kind of did a little bit in the playoff to them. They were just a soft team. They've completely flipped the script as well in terms of their mentality. You were just raving about Penn State's defense. Ohio State's defense is actually third in the country in points per game allowed. So you have Michigan at number 1, Penn State at number 2, and Ohio State at number 3. The defenses in the Big Ten right now have just been absolutely insane this year. Both Penn State and Ohio State allowing under 10 points per game. And then when you think historically of Ohio State, they CJ Stroud, Justin Fields, all those good receivers, we think points, 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 and points. This game, the total's coming in only at 47.5. I like the under there just with how good the defenses play, but also with the quarterbacks. When you look at Drew Aller, 0 interceptions on the year. Kyle McCord, 1 interception on the year. Two young quarterbacks that don't have a ton of experience, but have shown the ability to take care of the football. Kyle McCord's only interception, I believe, was on like a 4th and 5 against Indiana in week 1, where it was he just threw it to get rid of it because it was a turnover on downs anyway. But these are two guys that don't put the ball in harm's way. I think they're going to be playing smart, and it might be which quarterback at the end has to make a tough throw into like a tight window that gets the interception that kind of puts this one away. So that's what I'm looking at. Which quarterback is able to avoid the big turnover? I think on a betting side, and this one, I have a Penn State future to win the national title from the preseason, so I probably won't be betting this game, but I do really like the under in it. I'm just going back to what I was talking about, the defenses. But I think historically as well, you have to look at Ohio State to win this one outright. Um, Penn State's lost the last 6 games against Ohio State. Penn State hasn't won in Columbus since 2011, when Ohio State only went 6-7 that year. So a very down year for program standards. They've just dominated this rivalry. And James Franklin is 1-8 in his career against Ohio State, with that one win being the big win back in 2016 on the blocked field goal at the whiteout game in Happy Valley. So I do think Ohio State's going to win this one, but I do think it's going to be a close game, lower scoring, physical matchup between two top 5 scoring defenses. So I like the under from the betting side, but like I said, I got the Penn State future for the national title. So that's what I'm going to be holding on to for this game.
Really intriguing. What type of number are you holding as far as Penn State future to win the national championship?
I think I got them at 20-1. I
Nice,
forget the
very nice.
exact number. It might be 18-1, but
Mhm.
I think it's 20-1 what I got it at.
Could very well be a playoff team after it's all said and done. It's going to be a big time game, of course, for them to prove their worth here. Money line, since you did bring that up, -198 for Ohio State, +164 for Penn State. So if anybody wanted to dance on that side, I don't have any issues. To me, it's like a high price pitcher. Sometimes, you're going to pay
Mhm.
an extra couple bucks to be on the right side. But 4.5 is the spread. Total, though, as you said, you like the under. So did Julian Edlow from DraftKings. He joined me on the daily ticket, and the number is down from 47.5 down to 45.5. Are you
Wow.
comfortable with the under at 45.5? And what's the lowest you're willing to go here?
So my official prediction for the game was Ohio State 21, Penn State 17. Like I could see this game being in that kind of I have it at 38, maybe in that like 42, 43 type range. But you were saying with the rush defense of Penn State this year, with 5 straight games holding them under 100. I think that's going to be a big thing. Make Kyle McCord go out there and make some tough throws against this elite secondary. I just think there's too many statistics being thrown out there right now about how good the defenses are. It could be like a trap kind of spot, but the money keeps coming in on it going under, which is, if you haven't got it yet, get it now, because this one could even go down a little bit more. But I also think Ohio State has shown the ability to play in these low scoring games with that win at Notre Dame. Penn State has shown the ability to win both ways as well, scoring a lot of points, keeping it lower. But stylistically, I think on an ideal day, both these teams the build of them right now is keeping it lower scoring. So I think the under 45.5, you said now, I would still take that. But once it gets down to like 43, 42, I think it would be maybe a little bit too close.
I am riding with you as far as the total is concerned. I definitely think this is going to be a slow pace type of game. What if remember Franklin was chewing off a reporter's head about not attacking and throwing the ball downfield, and so I expect Penn State to stick to their script. I think Harrison, of course, could be that wild card. Dude's just a freak, the best athlete or the best receiver in the game. Went for over 100 yards last week against Purdue. Maybe they could keep it simple and just continue to feed him the rock. I don't know. I'm sure Franklin is prepared for
So
that on the
he's got a
defense,
tough
right?
matchup this week, though. Kalen King is a day one corner, most likely for next year, and a guy that's gone up and faced some big time competition. So he's a guy that's not afraid of the matchup. But as we know, they still have a bunch of other guys around the yard, and Marvin Harrison is certainly a better player than Kalen King. But at the same time, it's not like they have a poor secondary. This is a group, that's going to come ready to play. And I also found my future ticket. I got it preseason with a 23% boost from DraftKings. Don't know
Nice.
why that was a boost, but I got it at 27-1.
Nice. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
So
look, like you said, they could very well be in the playoff, and if you're in the dance, you get a good, really good opportunity to win it.
mhm.
Last thought on that game, and I don't know, like I'm in on Penn State. I'll take the points. For me, having to sit there and watch a few games, and you have as well. So I'm curious to know your thought on this. Penn State's had the look of a special team. I know it was a big time win for Ohio State against Notre Dame. They got lucky. That ball should have been
Mhm.
intercepted on that final drive. There's no way they should have won that game. They did. I'll give it to them all day. But in my mind, Penn State's a special team. They got the look, they got the feel. So why not trust them in this spot to rise up and meet those expectations here? I'm not saying that they're going to beat Michigan, but this is the first one. Maybe they get through this hurdle or get over this hurdle and then lose to Michigan. Could very well happen. But I like Penn State here. I'm going to take the points. I'll roll with Penn State. I would even look at them taking it. Look, if they covered a number, you got to believe that they can go in there and win the game. I would actually look at that as well.
Yeah, the thing with Penn State with me right now in comparison to Ohio State, we saw you said that they got lucky, but Ohio State still did find a way to win at Notre Dame. They've shown the ability to play in a close game and be battle tested. Penn State's won every game this year by at least 17 points. They haven't had a game come down to the wire, and we haven't seen Drew Aller in a big spot, have to engineer a late game drive, need to go out and make some key fourth down or third down conversions down the stretch. I have seen Kyle McCord do that. I have seen Kyle McCord do that and be playing at home as well. I just think there is a lot more on Ohio State's side in this one. If Penn State against in that Iowa game, it was, down the stretch, I needed to see a game-winning drive for a field goal by Drew Aller. That would give me a little bit more faith, but this Penn State team, you can look at it the other way too, that they've been dominating so much, but they also haven't played the greatest competition. Ohio State had that really tough game, and they're a little bit more battle tested with that Notre Dame game. So I think that's what's kind of pointing me in that direction, and just James Franklin's lack of success against both Ohio State and Michigan.
All right, like you said, you're on the under, nothing on the sides. I'll take Penn State, and we'll see what happens. Hopefully, we're all right at the end, right? Let's go.
Yep.
Um, let's keep it moving, and let's talk about some SEC football. And we got ourselves a big one. The winner of this one's probably, if I'm not mistaken, will be in the SEC title game, representing the West side of things. Of course, it's Bama and Tennessee. And last year, it was an amazing, amazing game, 52-49 final score. And Tennessee got the best of Alabama, so maybe a little payback here. We'll find out. But Saban last week got his 200th victory as an Alabama head coach with a 24-21 squeaker over Arkansas here. I forget if he gave me a play on that one, but Alabama just going, rolling with the tide, I guess I could say here, where they ended up losing that tough game to Texas, haven't lost since, a couple close games. Here we are at home, Tuscaloosa, giving 9. DraftKings Sportsbook has the Alabama Crimson Tide favored by 9 here. 48.5 is your total in this one. Your thoughts? Does Tennessee have the firepower to keep this close in your mind? 9 is a lot of points, Ryan.
Yeah, so when you say the firepower with Tennessee, that's what my mind goes to. That matchup last year of all the points, Jalen Hyatt, Hendon Hooker, just the exciting. That was probably the game of the year, at least regular season wise, in college football last year. This Tennessee team is completely different. Like if you haven't watched them, they still have that that fancy spread out offense, and Joe Milton tries to throw it around the yard, but he has not been that good. But this is a team that can run the ball and can really play defense. 18th in the country in scoring defense, only allowing 17 points per game. A complete flip from last year. If they had this defense last year and Hendon Hooker didn't tear his ACL, we might have been talking about Tennessee as the national champion. 20th in the country in rushing defense, 28th in passing defense. Just a much improved group from last year. And offensively, they have the 6th best rushing attack in the country at 231 yards per game. So stylistically, this is a really good matchup because what this Tennessee team does well, Alabama does well at the same regard. But you look at Alabama might just be a little bit better in every single spot. But I do think the way that both these teams are built and the way that both these teams want to play, it's going to be a closer game. So I do like Tennessee plus the 9.5 in this one. I don't think that they're going to go in there and win. Last year was the first time Tennessee beat Alabama since 2006, and they haven't beaten them in Tuscaloosa since 2003. So it kind of goes back to Tennessee playing at Florida in the same kind of regard there, just the complete domination in that series. But I do think this one gets kept pretty close, and I do like the under in this game as well. I think it's going to be like a 24-21, 26-21, something like around there, where we see it close. Tennessee covers the number and the under hits. Alabama is not built to go out there and score a lot. And like I said, the way this Tennessee team has been playing stylistically this year compared to what we saw the past few years from a Josh Heupel led team, much different. And I think that matches up well with this Alabama squad.
All right, let's keep it moving. Let's head out west. Let's go to beautiful LA, Southern California, where Utah, 14th ranked Utah, traveling to take on USC. Utah winners of 3 straight. Southern Cal hasn't been the sunshine and rainbows over there over the past few weeks. And this one's going to be really tough because we know, bottom line, Utah and that defense, they are for real. Offensively, though, USC can put up numbers if they're able to get it going. I don't know. I haven't been all that impressed from USC's offense. I like they were really impressive in the beginning of the season, but since then, kind of think that they've been down just a little bit a peg here or there. We know that Utah's got that tough defense. So I'm curious, stylistically, you brought that up, use that word. Where are you going on this one? Let's go ahead and take a peek, first of all, on DraftKings, what they're showing here. Game is kicking off at 8 o'clock. It's on Fox. USC still holding steady as a touchdown favorite at home. 53 is the total. Feeling froggy on the money line. Utah plus 235. USC a monster 290 money line favorite. Where are you going on this one? You rolling with the defense? Or you like that Southern Cal offense?
Well, to throw it back to you real quick, you've been involved with the betting longer than I have. I feel like the 7-point spread is just screaming USC because USC coming off that absolute beatdown to Notre Dame last week, now you're getting 7 points at home against this Utah team that's one of the better defenses in the country. I feel like that was such a trap spot for people to be all over Utah, and I think USC is going to win this one and win this one pretty handily. Is that what the spread's telling you as well?
you know, I can't just look at the number alone, right? Like to me, I definitely think the embarrassment from USC, what they went through. The second thing that goes through my mind is if Caleb Williams doesn't throw interceptions, I don't see how Utah is going to be able to keep up if
Mhm.
USC can score 25 to 28 points. Like Utah can't score. So for the touchdown, yeah, if you were to make me make a play on this one, I think I'm going with USC as well. Bounce back spot for USC as we just brought up, getting lumped by Notre Dame, where everybody was watching that game. I think the ratings were completely through the roof. So
Mhm.
I'm right there with you. That 7-point spread kind of telling, I guess.
Yeah, and throwing it back to kind of the big picture for this game as well. Utah's defense, as you were touching on, they're 5th in the country, only allowing 12.17 points per game. So I'm sure we're in a little bit. We'll hit on Duke as well. They're 4th. So we've already touched on the top 5 defenses. That's how good some of these top tier teams have been this year on the defensive side of the ball. But just like Mark Henry Jr. always says with Jalen Hurts, anytime touchdown, the best value bet in sports actually might just be USC overs every single week. 14 of their last 15 games have gone over. And I saw another stat today. Their last 7 games where the line was under 62 points the total has gone over as well. This week it's coming in at 56, I believe it is right now. Um, we saw last week USC only scored 20 points and the game still went over. Like that's how bad the defense is. And even against this Utah team that's not really going to be able to go score for score, I think with USC, they still should be able to go out there and move the ball and put up some points. But I just think in the long run, Caleb Williams versus whoever's playing quarterback for Utah, because they've been rotating guys with Cam Rising still not back. It's looking like a spot for me here where USC finds a way to win this game at double digits, kind of build some momentum to get back on track with some tougher games coming up. But I'm taking the over again in this one, 14 out of the last 15. I feel like you have to just continue to do that until they start going the opposite way.
All right, let's keep it moving here. Beef up front, breaking down all things college football. Ryan Coyle, Sean Brace. Let's talk about Duke and Florida State. 13.5-point spread. You want to talk about a number that was kind of telling me something? I think, man, that's a lot of points for Duke to be catching.
Mhm,
If people didn't know, if people didn't pay attention to last week's game, I was out on the Wolfpack. Thought that was actually a decent angle as far as going against the backup quarterback, filling in for Leonard, who was a
mhm,
big piece to Duke's puzzle on offense. and then all of a sudden they throw the football 12 times, complete 4 passes. Dude throws for 2 touchdowns out of the 4 passes. They run the football all down NC State's throat. 30 carries for 194 yards. So it's one thing to be able to do that in Durham against NC State. Now let's bring it to this week, and it is Florida State is the opponent. 7:30 kick going down there in Tallahassee. Wow, Ryan, we've had a move. Now we're over 2 touchdowns since earlier this afternoon. It's now a 14.5-point spread. 49.5 is your total. If you want to ask me, is the line saying anything to you on this one? Florida State rolls. Florida State wins by like 24, I would say. But I don't think you agree. Where do you stand on this one?
Yeah, it's another situation where we talked about it last week with Duke. I'm not touching it until the news about Riley Leonard comes out, whether he plays or not. This number certainly indicates to me that he won't be playing. As you were touching, Belvin, the fourth, was the quarterback last week. Didn't look to do much damage. But they also had the luxury of playing an NC State team that isn't, the Washington Huskies on offense, where, all right, we can just run, and bank on our defense, which is the fourth best scoring defense in the entire country. This week, you're playing Florida State with Jordan Travis, who NFL quarterback in the future, don't know. I think he'll get picked up by someone maybe mid-round. But then you look at Keon Coleman, the assortment of running backs. If Wilson's back this week, I believe he missed last week. They have a really good tight end. They just got dudes at every single spot on the offense, where Duke, however good their defense is, they're going to be a little bit outmatched in this one because, like I said, they're not playing NC State that they played last week. This is a team in Florida State that is a national title contender for sure. So just wait for this one, I say, until Riley Leonard officially gets ruled out. If he does come back in, we've seen him. He's a playmaker. He's a game changer. And if Duke's defense is able to hang around, they could certainly cover that number with Riley Leonard just because he's a gamer. That's what we were talking about with him. He's not the flashiest player, but he finds a way to get things done and make some big plays, especially in that Clemson game earlier in the year. So this is a wait and see for me. Florida State's another team that I have the national title ticket for, so I'm just holding out hope for an outright victory in this one. But I could see them, their team too, it kind of starts slow, but over the past few weeks, we've seen them pull away later in the second half. So it also could be like a game that you might want to live bet potentially as well. If Duke comes out early, take Florida State and to come back and cover, a 10-point spread or something.
All right. That's definitely got my attention. Again, Florida State rolling. But we'll see what Duke has to offer this week. Let's stay in the ACC. Let's talk about Clemson and Miami. Let's talk about Clemson and Miami, 8 p.m. here. That is a 3-point spread. Clemson on the road in Miami. Miami just getting lumped up last week by UNC. Anything on this one? DraftKings showing Clemson 3-point road favorites. 48.5 is your total.
Yeah, this one is like the what do we have to play for kind of bowl. I mean, like with Miami now with the rough loss to Georgia Tech. Then last week we were all over UNC -3.5. Just don't think Miami was going to be able to bounce back. And now Clemson, a team where they're kind of down in the dumps for a year in the ACC. I saw Dabo talking today. He was like, we got to this program to such a good point where if you don't go undefeated, you're a loser and you suck and you should be fired. Like, all right, dude, like calm down a little bit. You're still not the greatest thing since sliced bread. This is just I don't know what to expect from this game. Like Clemson is out of it in the ACC pretty much. Miami's out of it in the ACC pretty much. What are we really going to look at? Miami has failed to cover the spread though in each of its last 11 October home games against non-AP ranked teams. Say that again. Remember that one, but that's one of the trends in this one. And 7 of Clemson's last 8 games against conference opponents have gone under the total point line. So I think that could be a play and a trend for sure. But 2 teams that are kind of sitting there dead in the water, maybe take a flyer on a plus money line in this one and have a little fun with it. But it's probably a stay away from me on Saturday.
All right. Other games that have our attention that we will probably have some action on. And if we haven't hit on any of the games that you want to give us some plays on, so please feel free. But let's go ahead and talk about, let's get on over to the SEC a little bit more here. Ole Miss and Auburn. And this is one you wanted to bring up, one that we've been paying a lot of attention to Ole Miss and really honing in on what they've been able to do and I don't know if we were on the right side. I got to give Alabama the credit, but it felt like that game was there for the taking. Dart, though, he's banged up. Is he going to be ready to go in this one? Anyways, Ole Miss on the road at Auburn, 7 p.m. kick. You got the 13th ranked Ole Miss Rebels. They are 5-1 on the season. They're 6.5-point road favorites. Total coming in at 55. Your thoughts on this game, Ryan?
Another game where the number caught my attention. I thought this one would probably be more like a 9.5, 10-point favorite because Auburn hasn't really impressed. They're winless in the SEC, but it is another rivalry game where Auburn has historically dominated this rivalry, 35-11 all time over Ole Miss, and they've won 11 of the past 15 matchups. It's also Hugh Freeze's revenge game, his first game against Ole Miss since taking over as the head coach of Auburn. I am looking at Auburn plus 6.5, and I am looking at them on the money line as well at plus 210. They've hung around a couple games. I think that they have a chance to potentially pull off the upset here because, like I said, I think that number is a little bit too low. And a home night game in the SEC, it's going to be bumping there regardless. This isn't the greatest Auburn team. I do think Freeze will be able to get them rolling eventually, but historically, looking at the trends, I'm a big believer in them. It's just hard to go into opposing team stadium where you haven't had that much success. I don't care if you're saying none of these guys had anything to do with that past. It's certainly up there. They've certainly seen it, and they're going to be playing a little bit nervous, I think. So I do like Auburn plus 6.5, and I wouldn't be afraid to sprinkle on the money line either.
All right, a couple quick ones, rapid fire here for you, and then we'll get over to anything on your card that we haven't hit. Oklahoma, top 10 team, undefeated, 18.5-point favorites against UCF, noon kickoff. Any possibility for an upset there?
My boy Joe Komet, 7 of his past 8 locks of the week have hit. He's on Oklahoma minus 18.5 this week. So that's his play of the week, play for the people. So I'm going to ride with him and the hot hand there.
Yeah, we won't go against that. That's a great trend. You got a Friday night play for us? I know that you had a loss last Friday, but you're still hitting on a pretty good number there. Anything for Friday this week? It's Temple and SMU. I need a pick. That's what we got to go with.
Went 1-1 last Friday. Ended my 8-0 start, but I guess we're just going Operation Fade Temple. SMU's had a really good defense, which is kind of weird saying with them. You historically think of them as a team that puts up a lot of points. Looking for the number on that game right now, 20.5. Yeah, let's go SMU minus 20.5. Win that one. And like I said, that you're not getting any home field advantage there for Temple. So we'll go SMU minus 20.5.
All right. Pac-12 at night, 10:30 kick, Arizona State, Washington, 26.5-point favorites. Big time number, but Washington, they score a lot of points. Anything for you on that one?
Yeah, Washington coming off obviously an emotional game where they kind of had to give it their all. Penix did get a little bit banged up last week. I'm intrigued to see if that kind of carries over. It was like a shot to the ribs. He probably just continued to play through the adrenaline there. I think that one would probably just be an overplay for me. They're kind of tied to the hip with USC where if Washington's playing, just take the over because that's the way that they're going to play. They could go out there and potentially even hit it themselves. What's the exact number for this week?
For the Washington game?
Yeah, for the total.
That was a late night game. Sorry, 10:30. It's 59, bro. 59.
Yeah, I'm taking the over in that one. Like I said, I think Arizona State might be able to come out, score a little bit in their own regard, but Washington's well equipped to go out there and put up like a 52 spot themselves.
All right. Anything on your card we didn't hit?
I'm looking at one game. I'm looking at is the Air Force Navy game. 2 service academies. Air Force sitting at 6-0. Actually, one of the best teams in the country that no one's talking about. They're ranked number 22 right now. I like them. I got them at minus 10 at the beginning of the week. I'm not sure if that's moved at all, but they're the number 1 rushing offense in the entire country at 334.2 yards per game, and they're playing a Navy team that comes in at 5th in the country in rushing yards per game, but Air Force actually has the 5th best rushing defense. If they're able to stop the run of Navy's not going to be able to throw it on them. This Air Force defense is legit. And Navy's 3 wins this year. It's against opponents that are Wagner, North Texas, and Charlotte. Those teams have a combined record of 6-12. Air Force is a much more battle-tested team through the early part of this season. I think that they roll in this one.
34.5 total.
Yeah, I got it. I took the under in that one at 37.5 at the beginning of the week. So you see that moving, and I think I I'm gonna take the personal challenge too of taking the Iowa Minnesota under. I got it
Oof.
at 32.5, and I think now it's 31.5. That one's gonna be like it's gonna be some weird like 9-4 game, like two safeties or something. It's just
Yep.
gonna be the ugliest football ever.
All right. A couple quick ones, as I said before we get out of here. Beef up front. Um, Heather Dinich is a college football. She is somebody on the committee, I want to say, and she is always on ESPN in the morning, and basically the spokesperson. She's the one that comes out and addresses the rankings and all that. And I had her Twitter handle, and now I can't find her. Anyways, oh, there she is, CFB Heather. This morning, she revealed that the top four teams right now in the country, one, she said, I'm trying to dig up the tweet right now, but she said that essentially because Georgia doesn't have Brock Bowers, I'm paraphrasing, at this second, they are not a top four team in college football. Where do you stand on that? She goes on to say Georgia has no top 25 wins. Kentucky's the only FBS opponent over 500. Other FBS are 10 and 24. She talked about Washington. She talked about FSU. She talked about Oklahoma. Where do you stand on that? Because for me, my money, Georgia is a top four team in the country.
Well, if she's gonna say that, then you can't put Michigan as a top 4 team in the country either. I mean, who the hell is Michigan beat? They've played East Carolina, UNLV, Bowling Green, Rutgers, Nebraska, Minnesota, and Indiana. Like they haven't played anyone in their own regard either. When you look at some of the other teams that actually, went out and scheduled some tough games, Ohio State has the impressive win at Notre Dame. Florida State beat both Clemson, who we just talked about having a bit of a down year, but they beat them and an LSU team or an LSU team that's having a little bit of a down year, but could go out there and play with anyone. Washington just had the game of the year, the victory over Oregon. You look at Oklahoma, they beat Texas. Like some of these other teams have a lot of good wins as well, but it goes back to Georgia has a 19-game winning streak currently. They haven't been beaten. I believe it's 19 games. They haven't been beaten in 2 seasons. So this is a
That should
team.
count right now. That should count this year.
I think if you're at the top, someone's got to knock you off. I mean,
I agree.
and what you're saying with Bowers, it sounds like there is a chance that he would return for the SEC championship game and the playoff. It also goes into he's probably going to be a top 10 pick. Does he want to rush out there with having already won the past two national championships? But like if you're going to hold what Georgia's done in the non-conference in the early part of the season, you have to hold that to Michigan as well. So I would certainly still keep Georgia in there. I don't necessarily think that they are one of the top teams right now just because of what they played, but you can't take them off until they've proven you otherwise. So you got to keep Georgia in there. If they lose, then you can have a different discussion.
Yeah, she says Washington has a statement win versus Oregon. FSU has two good ones versus Clemson and LSU. Oklahoma, best win in the country. Michigan, most complete team. Yeah, I'm with you, man. Georgia's got to be in there until someone knocks them off. You have to involve everything. It's not like they're not a championship contender, right? It's not
And
like
the
they're
SEC is
scary
still the
scraping by.
SEC.
Yeah, exactly. No SEC teams in that top four. Interesting. I'll go ahead and bet right now that an SEC team will be in the
Yeah.
college football playoff. As you said before the podcast, well, she got you talking. So yeah, she knows what she was doing there. Nice work, Heather. All right. Last one. Your final or your favorite play for this week. What do you got? What's your favorite play? If you were to recommend one, which one we going with?
Let's start it off with that Penn State Ohio State under. I think that it's going to be a lower scoring physical matchup between two of the top 5 scoring defenses, two young quarterbacks. I think they kind of play a little bit scared, more conservative, and we see a bunch of runs in this one. So slow pace, and I like the under in that play.
Excellent stuff as always. Beef up front. Ryan Coyle, fantastic job. And good luck on all your plays this weekend. Hopefully we're cashing in. And again, just pick some winners as this college football season continues to roll on. Always great to get up with you, man.
Yes, sir. Have a good one. Go Phils.
There he is.